Hi Srini, many congratulations on your new role and thank you very much for taking out time today.
Thank you, Pramod. Thank you, Sandeep. My pleasure.
So Srini, just to start with, can you please guide our aspiring CFOs on what stands out in the selection process of a CFO or for that matter any senior finance role?
So, look, it's a very interesting question because it starts by saying what is expected out of a CFO in today's context. I think if you answer that, the selection process actually becomes a very, very simple and logical extension. There are two ways to handle it. And one is really on a professional side, what is expected? I think there are four phases to a CFO. The first one is you're expected to be a strategist, you're expected to be a catalyst. Third, you're expected to be an operator. And fourth is you've got a big role to play in terms of stewardship. So therefore, the CEO, it's a double act. As a CFO, it's a double act that you need to do with the CEO to steer the business. We're not even talking about only winning for today, we're talking about winning for tomorrow. Because consumers are changing, customers are changing, business models are changing, change and transformation is going to be an inherent piece. And the last element just to highlight is look, and you can build lovely castles, but if your foundations are not based on strong controls and risk management, it's not going to be a sustainable business model. So these four phases of CFO are intuitive, appeal, but I think what's the big change is you need to have CFOs today playing a larger and larger role in really the strategist and the catalyst part and specific elements of risk management. We flip to the other side of the equation, and I think this applies as much to a CFO as it applies to a senior leader. The word has become a lot, and the word has also become very ambiguous. So therefore, you can't really live with singular qualities. And I think it's again a very nice framework to use today. A senior leader is expected to connect and galvanize, is expected to be heroic and vulnerable. You have to be risk taking and at the same time reluctant. And I think you need to be disruptive, followed by serious bouts of pragmatism. So now you have suddenly what's really looking like a very complex model. So let's add a little more flavor to it. Then I think what's really expected of the third dimension is you need to have a purpose, what gets you going, and a point of view. Yeah, because that's an important one because you can't be sitting on the sidelines and hedging if you really need to drive something. And the last one, for the want of a better one, and you can keep going on and on, is really having this ability to connect the dots and bring a lot of outside into business. Of course, talent goes without saying, because if you don't have quality people, you're not going to run the business. So you add up all of this and you simply say, look, this is almost an impossible job. So I got a simple take for it. If you can demonstrate many of this, or if you can demonstrate that you have the ability to do many of these things, and that's when people really look for in a CFO, and therefore the selection process becomes very, very simple. But last step, just be your natural self, because all those things which I have said to you is not something you can, you can really fake it. This is how you need to build and develop yourselves, and if you can do it in a cohesive manner, the interview process actually, to be honest, is a very, very simple and straightforward. But therefore, the answer is you need to have series amount of prep before you feel you can really approach it in that sense.
What was it like for the first 100 days?
I think in some manner it's easy to go back. I mean, you go back 3.5 years, you can see it very, very objectively. You can see the good, bad, the ugly. Look, there were two components to it. First is obviously I was coming back into the business almost after 5.5, 6 years, having gone and worked in different parts of Unilever. So there was this whole focus in terms of really trying to understand your consumers, understand your business, and form your own perspective of what's really good, what's really something that are the spaces which can really be better. And third, equally saying that what's really ugly, because in a business you will have all three of them. The second aspect was really about building your connect with stakeholders, because in a role like this, you had board, you had investors, you had our internal management team, and you had the broader leadership team. I think that was again a big element in terms of trying to focus there. The third one is that look, you can be as good as you want to be, but if you really want to lead the finance function of the size of a HUL, you need to also start to win the hearts and minds of your team. And therefore, I think synthesizing all of this to really pull together what would be your agenda, I think these are the elements which I think we all did, and I particularly did. But I think what stands out for me is just as I was transitioning into the role, we had what I would really say was a major event for us. It was really all about our GST 2.0. In about 3 days' time, we had to really reduce prices across the width of our portfolio, uh, which, to be honest, was not something you could do just given the logistical challenges. Ours is a business which is about thousands of SKUs catering to thousands of consumers, or actually millions of consumers. You can't really take down prices and correct damages, all of that in a 3 day space. So this was a classic crisis, if you could call it, if you don't manage it well. But if you manage it well, I think it's a super opportunity. And I think that's where is one of my classic learnings. So you don't waste a crisis. Because if you can really take it head on and demonstrate your leadership, to be honest, you arrive very, very quickly. You establish yourselves very quickly and then you become first amongst equals.
It is a dream for young finance professionals to join HUL, right? So when you hire a young person into your team, what are the key skills you would look for when recruiting a young finance professional, and how do you manage to retain talent?
So, Sandeep, I think it's actually managing a life cycle of career. Yeah? It's like a product life cycle or a consumer life cycle. It's also a talent life cycle because the whole life cycle starts by saying that you attract the best possible talent. Then you build and develop them, and then you really retain it. Because this is a combination. It's not that while you can call it as three different topics, but you need to manage it end to end. When I then start to pick elements of first is saying attract and what do you look for in talent. When you're looking for young talent, obviously, first and foremost is you need to be very, very good at what you bring to the table, which is the core functional skills. That's why if you see at HUL, there are two ways we look at it. We look at an entry level, therefore you are really the top rated candidates, whether it's a chartered accountant or from an MBA institute. Or if you're coming lateral at a later stage in your career, which is absolutely fine, but what are you bringing to the table and therefore have impeccable first class functional skills. That's at an early stage in your life, there's no shortcut when it comes to that. Then second element I think you need to really think is that do you have a growth mindset? Are you really willing to think about growing the business and growing your own personal self? I think that's an element I think you really need to start looking at people. And a good dimension of that is that you have the hunger. And I think that's something that I actively look for in people. Third is an outside-in perspective. And I think this is when people start to show early signs of how they are thinking just beyond what is the minimum expected out of them. And I'll give you a very good example. You talk to people about what's really happening in the economy and what could be the potential implications on the business. You get two sets of people. Look, and I don't think anyone can give an answer because it's a difficult topic, and I need to acknowledge that. But you clearly start to get two sets of people. First, to at least make an effort to understand what's going on in the economy, what constitutes our GDP, what components could be under pressure, and they try and make a linkage to the business. And then you get a second set of people who quote you the headline number in terms of GDP. So the answer is very clear. Who are the people who are thinking a bit further into the future, who are thinking outside in and the implications of the business, and those are the people who really make that. And I think one important element for me is the value systems. Because at the end of the day, as HUL, as Unilever, and to be honest, in any business that you operate, if you don't have the right value systems, you're not building a sustainable business. So therefore, these are some of the elements that we really start to look at. I start to look when we start to think about attracting talent. Second aspect, I think, if I briefly touch upon, is really building people. So I think we all go through a certain career journey where I think about initial stages, about 60 to 70% of what you get as coaching and development is a standardized template. But I think that's where you need to add a different dimension to really saying, what do you really want to be? And people define purpose, and Unilever uses purpose generously. I don't believe it needs to be something lofty. You will figure that out later in your life. If you are really clear about where you want to go and what you want to be, I think that's when you can start to customize. The organization can start to help you to customize your development plan or your future fit plan. And therefore, the balance 20 or the 30% comes into it. I think that becomes a super important one because not everybody needs to be a CFO. Some want to be CFO, some may want to do something else, but that's when you really start to bring in the skills. And the last mantra for retaining talent is, and it's becoming a challenge. There are so many opportunities for good people. In one manner, we continue to say there are not enough jobs, but you also realize that there is not enough good talent out there. And especially, it's a difficult conundrum to solve. I think what works well for us is give them the experiences. Now, I have been fortunate enough to do about 11 to 12 roles in my career of about 21 years with Inflexible. That means every 2 to 3 years, I'm actually got a chance to really do something new, something different, which is actually adding value to the organization, adding value to me. There is no substitute for that. Second is, I think, give people the opportunity to do the best that they can be. Don't hold them back, give them the freedom, give them the platform, and give them the wings to fly. Obviously, when people do that, they will fail. Yeah, some of them, you never want to have a month off and everyone succeeds on everything. They will fail in some. I think that's the time to really put your arms around them, give them that psychological safety, and have their back. I think if you start to run this consistently, you will start to see that look, a lot of people stay with you, they give you impeccable value, and even when they move on, they move on to huge roles. And that's also the reason we continue to take a lot of pride in HUL and Unilever really being a CXO factory and definitely a CFO factory.
There's one more thing which we found very interesting when we spoke to you first, and that was the concept of the personal board of directors. Right? A very unique concept. So just wanted our readers to understand, right? What is this personal board of directors? How important have mentors been for you? And who are some of those people?
In some cases, I actually want to talk to people who are in my own field. Because I get a lot of advice which is contextual, which is relevant, and I gain from that. Sometimes I want to talk to people who are actually ahead of me, who really be my seniors and who are really leading the agenda. In which case you're actually adopting a leader who's going to be where you aspire to. And that's a very, very cool case. Third is, I think, as you keep getting senior in the organization, you need to be grounded. It's very easy to then start feeling a little elevated in life and start to walk a few inches off the ground. And therefore, you need someone who's absolutely a brutal critic. Yeah, and I think they keep you balanced, they keep your head and your feet on the ground. That's an important one. Sometimes I think you also need someone who's in your own circumstance, because at the end of the day, they understand it a bit differently because they've been there or they are being there. It could also be someone from a very different generation, and different generation cuts both ways. There is the experience of people who've been there and done that. And there is also the whole concept of younger generation today who are a lot more tech savvy, digital savvy, and different models. So when you add up all of this and trying to again expect that one person, he or she, to really deliver it for you, is seriously far-fetched. Therefore, I think I have my own board, and if I can actually quote a few names. Why not start with, let's say, one of my earliest leaders that I've worked with, Kannan, who was a true entrepreneur. Yeah. So every time I genuinely want to shake off and talk to someone who what is really big, hairy, audacious, and crazy, with no way of thinking about it, I think Kannan is a good person to keep talking to. Then if I really look at someone like Balaji, who was my predecessor and a fabulous CFO and a super leader, I think whenever you want to bounce off something out of box, he's again a very, very lateral thinker. He approaches issues from multiple things. I think when you think and you engage with him, you think you got three angles. At least gets you to think about two others. What you need is that stimulus. Obviously, you need to make it your own. So it's a very different perspective. My wife keeps me balanced, and therefore she's a very, very key component of my personal board. Whether it's in terms of leadership, whether in terms of how I deal with crisis, whether in terms of resilience, or every time I think I'm getting carried away, I think she brings me down to the ground. And it's also interesting, every time I have some kind of a media interaction, we both sit down and actually look at those videos to say what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's also super important. And then I have some of my core set of friends who unabashedly are supporters. They just don't seem to think what I can do anything wrong, and which is not a bad thing, because what you need is serious bouts of optimism and serious bouts of energy. That's super important. Then I've also realized there are many, many external people who've been senior board members or who've been in consulting. A couple of examples. Kalpana Morpadia, our independent director, again, a very, very fabulous leader. And I think she gives you very different perspectives in terms of leadership, business, diversity, inclusion. I love chats with her. Of late, I've actually found very interesting conversations with one of the partners who used to be in Bain for Sudarshan Sampath Kumar. Again, it gives you very different perspectives, and I've really enjoyed having some of my career conversations in terms of what should I do and what I shouldn't. So there are a whole host of them. And I think the way I have now done is that my personal board has become very expanded. There are the earlier CFOs, Sundaram, there is Sridhar, there are external people. And I think what I keep doing is that I think periodically I keep circulating that board, which therefore I think makes it meaningful for me and doesn't make it onerous for me.
That is absolutely fantastic, Srini. It is great to hear from you. As always, really useful advice for our readers.
Yeah, thank you so much. Not only for today, Srini, but many more hours that you spent over last few years to share with our leaders your journey. Thank you so much.